just be loving, kind, merciful, forgiving, encouraging, grateful, non-judgmental, and useful.
Welcome to the JeffMara podcast. If you're listening to this in your car or on your mobile device, there also is a video of this on YouTube, on the JeffMara podcast YouTube channel. So tonight's guest is Kathy McDaniel, and she is an amazing guest, and she is the author of the book Misfit in Hell to Heaven Expat. She's going to share her near-death experiences with us, and we are going to find out what she has learned from them. Kathy, thank you so much for being on our podcast this evening. I really appreciate you sharing your time with us.
Thank you, Jeff. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
So from what I've learned, you had a near-death experience in 1999. Can you please start with how you died and then what happened?
It's a long story, but I will shorten it up for your people. What happened is I was living a pretty ordinary life. I had my family in college and my kids, and I had my own business, and my ex-fiance and I had broken up because he was moving to the East Coast and I wanted to stay on the West Coast with my business and family, blah, blah. Anyway, he called me not too long after he left and said that he had found out he had leukemia. He was only 53 years old and in good health, and it just shocked everybody. They were going to bring him to Seattle to do some research hospitals, see if they could find anything that could help him, but he needed 2 caregivers. So I dropped everything and came with another friend of his. And for about 5 months, it was day and night, trauma, drama, running back and forth to the hospital. He'd be good one day, bad the next. I got very run down with very little sleep and taking care of the other caregiver broke her foot. So I had to take care of both of them. By the time he passed away, I was a wreck. I went to visit somebody in Southern California, picked up a very virulent flu down there. It went into pneumonia, went into ARDS, which is lung failure, which is what people of COVID are dying of. And they put me in a coma in the hospital. I was in ICU for a month. They didn't really think I was going to make it. My family's praying for me. Everybody's praying for me. And after I went in the coma, you go, it's just black. You're not even aware of anything. You're just like dead sleep. I would like to read you the first thing that happened to me when I figured out I wasn't in Kansas anymore.
The first thing that happened to you while you were in a coma or after you woke up?
I was in a coma.
Okay.
And they had told my parents that they didn't think I was going to make it and they needed to come say goodbye.
Okay.
So the family's there. I'm unaware because for, 3 weeks I've been out. And people who know NDEs know that you don't have to be killed to have an NDE. You can be in a coma, someplace of extreme danger, and you can leave. You don't even notice it because the number one thing I learned about being dead is you don't feel dead. You are totally yourself. The same person you are now, you're the same person there. You feel no different. You're just in a very strange environment. So it takes a while to get used to.
You haven't changed. You still are you. But are you bodiless, or do you look around and still see your hands, or are you just pure consciousness?
Well, you know what? It was dark. I couldn't see anything. I thought I'd woken up in a closet or something. And so it just didn't make any sense. It just didn't make any sense. And there's no time there either. That's another thing you got to get used to. It's an eternal now. So since there's no sun going up and going down, you don't have a watch. It's just always now, and it's very disorienting. People that have an experience right off the bat they got a clue, and there's a huge clue there. You see, some people see the light, the tunnel, the angels, the flowers, and all that stuff, but pitch black, I just didn't know what to think.
Okay.
So this is just a very short, one little page thing of the first couple of seconds in a place with no time. It's at the beginning of the book. It's called It Begins. I didn't feel dead, only confused. Total darkness and absolute silence, my only references. Not daring to move, I waited. The blackness morphed into a reddish glow, dragging with it a stinking heat. Acrid fog, muffled moans, and ungodly shrieks. This can't be good. Something was staring at me, like a blow. A voice thundered, "Do you know where you are?" My mind raced, searching for some rational explanation, but part of me already knew. "Hell?" I whispered. To my horror, the answer was an ear-splitting, maniacal laugh. The evil crept closer as I clamped shaking hands over my ears. Panic surged in me, triggering the requirement for fight or flight. Fighting was not an option. I turned and ran. So that's how my adventure began. And after that, it got worse, steadily worse. And I would find myself in a situation, in a place. The first one was in this huge, immense blackberry field, canes everywhere. I've got a picture of it on Facebook about one blackberry acreage next to my house. Every time I go by it, I just shiver.
Wow.
But I met a demon there. They gave me a task to perform, and they were really just toying with me. It became pretty clear that with demons and complete darkness and people shrieking in the background and no sun, I was in a very bad, dangerous situation. But again, feeling alive and feeling no different, the only thing that came up for me was I've got to protect myself. I've got to run. I've got to hide. I've got to find some way to deal with these people, not people, spirits, whatever they were, that were trying to make me despair. I heard that word a lot. You might as well give up. You're never getting out of here. You might as well just despair. You're stuck here forever. And so each time I would stand up to the one of them and say, no, I'm not going to do that anymore. Or this isn't right. I'm not going to do it. And I'd say to somebody else, we don't have to do this. Woo, boom. I'd find myself in another situation, another set of circumstances, worse than the one before. And that went on and on for several different times. And I guess depressing is not the right word, but despair was around the corner, but I was determined not to do it. I had no sense of God when I was there. I knew somehow deep within myself that I would get out if I just didn't give up. If I would fight that evil and just not give up, something good would happen. I didn't know when or why or where. Finally, go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry to interrupt, but at any point did you ever say to yourself, or I guess think to yourself, hey, why am I here? What did I do wrong? Or did you have a thought like, oh, I messed up. That's why I'm here, because I did this?
No, because I really didn't know I was in hell till I left. And that question has haunted me for 21 years. Exactly. Why me? I wasn't that bad. So it's taken that long to really process all of that, to read books by other authors, and to come to know that that type of NDE is called a dark experience, a distressing disturbance, a disturbing one. But it's not. I can cut to the chase and tell you that God doesn't send anybody to hell.
Okay.
We send ourselves. I made that hell. I chose that hell.
Interesting.
And I went to that hell. And that's That's the key.
Over these 21 years, have you discovered why you created that and went there?
Oh, sure, sure. It gives you a lot of time to think when you're laying in a hospital and you can't move.
Mm-hmm.
And then when you get home and you can barely walk, and and a lot of quiet time, and felt like hell was about that far away all the time. And the demons, I was afraid to go to sleep. I was afraid they'd get me again. It was a terrible way to live for a very long time.
Wow.
And until I got to the IONS meetings, which was probably 10 years ago, I was afraid. I was afraid. I didn't know what to do about it. Very few people will talk to you about it. Your family says, oh, that was the drugs. It was a dream. It wasn't real. But it's more real than this earth real.
Mm-hmm.
And so I will get back to hell if you want to know what happened.
Well, before you go there, you read a lot and understood why people went there. And can you share with us why people usually go there or create that place for themselves?
It's really quite simple. We have free will. And we make our own lives with our choices. And we know we're going to have consequences, and we choose them anyway. So being raised a good Catholic girl my entire life, I was taught and believed that if I did anything wrong, there was a hierarchy of sins. There was mortal sins, there was venial sins. So if you did a venial sin, you might be able to offset that by going to church an extra day a week, or taking an old lady's dog for a walk. Or if you did something a little higher than that, you may have to go to confession, say some prayers and a couple of rosaries. And then, but all the while, you were making choices. I was making choices. And so the math got messed up somewhere along the line. And I had too many things in the negative column and not enough things in the positive column. But being 52 years old, 53 years old, I figured I had a lot of time to straighten it out, because by then I was a pretty solid citizen. So I chose to go to hell with my decisions, everyday decisions, and believing it. Now I know for a fact that God didn't send me there. God is pure love. God does not judge. God just loves you. He says, here's your free will. Take your life. And I now know I chose my life. We all choose our life. We come down and say, I want to learn such and such. And I'm just telling you what I believe, and what a lot of my NDE friends believe too, is that we choose to come down. We've got, for lack of getting too technical, a soul group, homie group that we hang out with, that we like to travel with, that we like to interact with over many, 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 many lifetimes, which I'm still trying to wrap my mind around. And so we choose to go down there. We choose, what time period, if I'm going to be a white lady is 5'2" and likes bookkeeping, all that stuff's picked out. And then my daughter, wanted to come the soul of my daughter wanted to come as my daughter, and all the people that you meet in your whole life, you somehow have some connection to in heaven, and you all have this little thing. And then when everybody dies, you take turns, go back. My idea, my heaven, is we're going to sit around a bar, have a couple of glasses of wine, and talk about all this, and have a lot of really good laughs about how that didn't work out quite so well. But this part really worked well, because a couple things happened when you choose to believe that. You are no longer a victim. Anything that happens to you is not, oh God, why does all these things happen to me? I say, why did I choose that? I wonder. What was I trying to learn on that one? I didn't read the fine print when I put that and checked that box. But it lightens everything up. This is just a play, folks. God gave us the opportunity to learn things and go have some fun. And sometimes we go here, and there's other universes. I'm told people go to all kinds of places, and I can't wait. But if you choose to believe, and I do now, God didn't do that to me. I did that to me. I said, if I do this, then I'm going to have that happen to me. And it did. So all the things that happened, and I had a little talk with God one time. I says, I think I've got a little bit more on my plate than a lot of people. And he's, yeah, you did take a lot of extra lessons on this trip. And I'm really proud of you. And whenever you pray to me and say, please take this away, I say, oh, but Kathy, you said you wanted to do it. I gave you free will. I'll give you lots of grace and love, and you'll be fine. And again, that turns that around so that I'm not mad at God anymore. He didn't do it. I did it. I'm choosing not to go to hell anymore because I don't have to. I'm a lovable person. I'm here to learn lessons. And sometimes I'll do a pretty good job on one. And sometimes I'll flub it up. Oh, well, I'll come back next time and see if I can do better. And same thing with everybody around me. I cut them some slack. Everybody gets more slack. Why are you always picking on me? I don't say that anymore. Or they, I don't know, your whole world view changes. It's easy to look at the world right now and say, what a mess. People are no damn good. And, but we're all learning these lessons that we chose at this particular place and time. And I think it's a real opportunity for people. These brave people that decided to come to Earth at this time. I think we're very brave.
I find it very interesting that your description of hell is kind of like a biblical one, and it makes sense since you were a Catholic. Are you still a Catholic at this time?
Well, we've been struggling with that for 21 years. I heard something tonight. I was reading, listening to some of your podcasts, and I ran across a priest in Germany, and it was being translated. And the only priest I've ever heard of that had a near-death experience, and he finally, had the guts to come out and say something about it. Of course, I'm 74 and I've lost my train of thought. What did you ask me again?
I said, are you still a good Catholic girl?
Catholic,
are you still a good Catholic?
He said, because he's a priest, because the guy says, he had been 21 years since he'd had his experience too, and he had a hell of a time getting his mind wrapped around it. I'm German, I'm pragmatic, I'm logical. And he said, faith is a walking aid. A crutch is a little, it's not quite as nice of a word. But we all go through the world, this scary world, with as many good luck charms or crutches or anything we can grab onto. And there's a difference between spirituality and religion. Spirituality is that thing, that love, that inspiration that comes from God. And Jesus taught, we'll pick Jesus because I'm Catholic. He sent a lot of people to talk and preach. And then that was 2,000 years ago. And as we all know, things get lost in the translation, political issues come up, things come into it. And come on, you can't hardly get an email translated, one or two times, much less a Bible with people writing it, handwriting it over centuries and millennia. So I believe the fundamentals that Jesus taught were spot on. I just think a lot of people messed with them and they're not relevant anymore. Oh, not all of it, but most of it is not relevant. It's not true. And I don't even know what to call myself. I really don't.
Well, that's okay.
Jesus taught us how to live and how to die. So I'm a Christian because I want to try and follow just what he did. And he was a very loving, merciful person, and he showed us how to live.
I agree. Let's get back to your coma for a moment. So after you got out of hell, you got out. Did you wake up and come out of your coma at that time?
Thank God, no.
Okay.
Because I had gotten to the end of my rope, and it's in the book, but it's a super way the last place I was, because inadvertently I said almost said the magic word, and they kicked me out. So all of a sudden, I've gone from what seems like years of horror to this bright space. It was like you turn on all the lights and there's no shadows anywhere, and it was white. But again, I don't have a mirror. I have no idea what I look like. It hasn't occurred to me to hold my hands up to my face because I feel alive. I've never felt dead. So I'm so excited about this light, and oh my gosh, this indescribable, everybody you talk to from the other side say that because there are no words, the indescribable love, indescribable joy, every happy moment you ever had times 1,000. You can't explain it. This, wow, you just want to I don't know, like being at the beach and it's warm and the music, I don't know, it's just indescribable. But it was fantastic. And I had no recollection whatsoever of hell. I was just in this moment of being completely loved and happy. And I'm just kind of looking around, and it's kind of strange, because I don't see anything but white light. And then it's kind of focusing, and I can kind of see, I don't know, things are just kind of focusing. And oh my God, there's my friend who just died a month ago before me that I loved dearly. And the last time I saw him, he has hair had fallen out. He was all purple. His eye was all swollen. He looked like hell. Well, he looked like hell. And now here he is. He was 53 when he died. I didn't even meet him till he was like 40. Now I'm looking at him, and he looks like he's about 35. He's no longer got gray hair. He's fit. His skin looks great. He's wearing a sweater I gave him for Christmas last year. Now I'm thinking something's up. Nothing gets past me. It's just been kind of a long adventure here. And I was so happy to see him. I gotta love this man. And he starts laughing. And I thought, well, that's a strange thing to do. It didn't come running to say or yell hello or anything. And I thought, oh, it dawned on me. He doesn't know he's dead. Oh. I don't want to be the one to tell him, that's how alive I still felt. Well, now he's really laughing. And he does this funny dance when he's really got chuckling about something. And I thought, wait a minute. If he's dead, then I'm dead. And boy, he's got it kind of going, got it, you got it. And oh man, I could have just leapt and danced. I thought, oh my God, I made it to heaven. It doesn't get any better than this. I am here, I'm with him, and I'm kind of looking around, and I thought, well, shouldn't there be a little bit more than just white? Or the angels, maybe a little song, a couple of flowers. This looks a little strange. And as I looked again, he's like, I can see that there's like an outline of a door. It kind of looks like it's still kind of fuzzy. And he's kind of in front of it. Like I wanted to go through it, but he wouldn't let me. And I thought, And then I looked over to the side, and I saw like a architect's table, one of those big ones, kind of high. And it had this huge book on it with pages open. And I thought, something went click. And I thought, wait a minute, he was showing me something in that book. What was it? It's important. And then I thought, all I can remember is he was showing me something. And I said, oh no, that's going to be too hard. I want to stay here with you. So when I saw that and the recollection came back and the look on his face, I thought, no. And he says, now, Mary Kay, you've got too much left to do. And I just felt like a 2-year-old. I just said, no. Whoosh. And then I had a weird thing, which happens a lot of times in in near-death experiences, where there's kind of they don't want to some people do get slapped back and when they're wide awake. I guess somebody was feeling sorry for me, but I kind of walked down this stream and kind of walked my way back into a calmer place
Mm-hmm.
because I was very upset. And then my eyes opened.
Wow.
And I can't move. And it's hot. And I see all these people wandering around in this white room like I just left. And I'm totally, I don't know what's going on. And by then, the hell stuff starts coming back. I can remember that creeping in. And now I'm terrified. Maybe I'm back there. And I can't talk. And I thought, why can't I talk? And why can't I move? And so all of a sudden, my son-in-law was sitting next to me. I guess they had told them, we're going to lift up the anesthesia. She's going to come back. You might want to be here so she doesn't wake up in an empty room. So my son-in-law, my daughter, my mom and dad, they're all crowded around my bed. But I'm having a hard time realizing where I am. Yeah, I am now really been full of drugs for 3 weeks. Mm-hmm. And I'm sad and I'm mad and I'm scared. So they come over, my daughter comes over and she says, now, Mom, you've been super sick and you're all right. You've been in a coma. And I'm just kind of whining. She says, you can't move. You can't move, Mom. And I just, again, my mom says, oh, she looks cold. Let's put a blanket on her. Mm-hmm. And I'm like sweating. Mm-hmm. And I'm going, oh. So she backs off. And I thought, who are these people? What are they trying to do to me? Well, it turns out they have to keep telling me the same story over and over because my mind is mush. But boy, I can tell you every second I've been in hell and every second I've been in heaven. Mm-hmm. And they said, well, you've down to 86 pounds. Wow. You've lost all your muscle mass. The testing the next couple days, the only thing I could move, I could blink both eyes and I could move this finger that much. Other than that, I felt like I was paralyzed, but I just was skin and bone, literally. And they were feeding me through a tube through my nose. They had the trach in my throat so I couldn't talk. I thought to myself, somebody screwed up. If I've been sent back to do all this stuff, how am I supposed to do that? I can't even move. I was rather angry. I got to give you that. I was angry for quite a long time. Mm-hmm. And it was probably a good thing I couldn't talk because when my mother would start in with, we had the whole world praying to send you back. Mm-hmm. I saw your face light up one time and I thought, oh no, she's with my friend. Mm-hmm. You send her back. You can't have her. Mm-hmm. I'm going to strangle you in my bare hands if I could move. Mm-hmm. But it was a real tough landing. Mm-hmm. And so the rest of the book, the book tells about my life and my going back to my great grandparents and certain traits in my family and why we believed the way we did and acted the way we did and how I found myself in this situation. And then the rest is coming back and trying to figure out why and how I was going to get this stuff done because that yearning for heaven was still so strong. I didn't want to be here. So I wanted to get, what is it? Tell me what it is. I'll do it and I'll go home. And that took a long time. And now I know it's going to be probably another 20 years.
How long did it take you to write the book?
21 years.
21 years. So,
well, the minute I got out of the hospital and I couldn't do hardly anything, I had to start from scratch. I had to go another month in a physical rehab just to learn how to talk and walk and do anything. And then I was confined to the house because anyway. And that every night I was afraid to go to sleep because this health thing was still banging around in my head. So I am a writer, always been a writer, but also a real estate broker and a bookkeeper. I'm a logical person on this side and a spiritual person on that side. So I thought if I could just write this stuff down, maybe it would quit haunting me. I could get it on paper, put it in a drawer and go to sleep at night. Well, I wrote it and I rewrote it and I rewrote it for years and years and years. And it got longer and longer. And I'd start over and it helped somewhat, but it didn't really accept it till I learned about IONS, International Association of Near-Death Studies.
Mm-hmm.
And that was a miracle how I found those people.
Mm-hmm.
The synchronicities were starting to happen, the after effects of having an NDE.
Mm-hmm.
There's certain things that you think there's something wrong with you, but it's just part and parcel of coming back.
Mm-hmm.
There's a tendency to finish people's sentences, to know a little bit about what they're going to say or what they're thinking. What I call the voice. God talks to everybody. Sometimes you hear your conscience say, you really shouldn't do such and such. And it's your angel or your conscious, whatever, but it's God, it's spirit talking to you. And it's like when you get back, you fine-tuned your radio. So he comes in a lot louder. Yeah. And he doesn't give up. So you can distract yourself sometimes, but like write the book, you got to write the book. You got to write the book. You got to write the book. And so the voice made me go do all these things that led me to people that gave me the opportunity and the encouragement to write the book.
As you were just writing it down, and I think as you said, as you met the people from IONS, that they kind of more inspired you to write the book. But before that, as you were just writing it down for what appears to be your own therapy, did you feel that you had some self-doubt before you met the people from IONS? Like, was this a real experience? Was I dreaming this? Was this just drug induced? Or you always knew it was a real experience?
No, because it wouldn't go away. When you've got a bad dream, I don't care how bad it is, 2 days later, you can't remember it.
Right.
If you've been in a, I don't know, car accident or something, and 10 years later, you can remember parts of it. Certainly not any of it when you're in a coma. No, it was real, and I did not want to go back there.
After going near-death experience, is there anything special that you have found out about your life that you didn't notice before?
As an after effect?
Right. Or after experiencing it, did you learn anything about your life that you didn't notice before, or maybe either during the experience or afterwards?
It's afterwards. I learned how powerful our own thoughts are and how we create a lot of our life. It doesn't happen to us. We create it by our choices and by choosing to live the way we do. And for me, I just kind of put all that afterlife stuff on the back burner, kind of figuring out I'd deal with it later. And I learned that I couldn't do that anymore. I had to face that and find out why that happened to me and how to keep it from happening again, and to never have anybody I love have to go through that.
It's interesting. When you earlier in the conversation today, you mentioned that you've had conversations with God. Is this kind of like what you were mentioning just recently about it wasn't really a conversation with God during your near-death experience, it's afterwards? Or did you have one during your near-death experience as well after you saw your friend?
No. God is not a person. God is everything. God is spirit. Everything is part of God. We're all connected. That's what I learned. Nothing would be here if God wasn't in a part of it. I mean, space, God is just everything, and we are little pieces of God. It's like we're like that big piece of bread where you pull off little crumbs and starter bread. You make starter bread, but we're pieces of God. We're spirit, and we're always a part of Him. When we're never away from Him unless we choose to be, because we have free will. So to say you talk with God, everybody talks with God if they'll just listen. Everybody, spirit's right in you all the time. All you have to do is just be quiet. And I think that's where meditation is so valuable. You quiet your mind, and God can get in between all the noise and hustle and bustle going on. He's always, not he, God is not a he or a she. God is just God. But God is always there, always.
What would you say are the most valuable things that you have learned during your experience that you can share with us for us to help our own lives?
I just happen to have a handy dandy bookmarker with it right on the back.
Oh, perfect.
The thing, several years ago, I started hearing very, very clearly, loving and kind, loving and kind, loving and kind. I'd wake up in the morning, loving and kind, loving and kind. I thought, okay, I'm getting a message here, loving and kind. It wouldn't go away. So I thought, well, maybe I better write it down. Loving and kind. I mean, that's really, if you just are loving and kind, you can't hurt anybody. That's the way to live, just to be loving and kind. Bingo! 21 years later, I finally get the password. So that went on, and I was really happy with that. And then all of a sudden, I started hearing one morning, merciful and forgiving, merciful and forgiving. That went on and on and on. Wrote it down. And this is still a person who has like memory problems from all that stuff I went through. And that went on. And then, oh my gosh, here it came again. Encouraging and grateful. Okay, that's out of the regular norm. That's not in the 10 Commandments or anything like that. So I like that one. And I put that down. And then God hit me between the eyes with non-judgmental. Oh, we're going up the ladder. And I thought, that stings. Okay, I'll write it down. And I'm guessing that's done. And it went a long time. And I would say every morning, dear God, help me be loving, kind, merciful, forgiving, encouraging, grateful, non-judgmental. And one morning there was almost a chuckle. Useful. And I thought, Mary Kay, you have too much left to do. You have to be useful. Everybody has to be useful. And I've had people that have read the book and say, okay, I went blah, blah, blah with the first, but tell me about this useful thing. And that's the one that seems to be kind of new, but it's so relevant today. Useful. And boom, what popped into my head was, I don't know who said this. It might have been John Kennedy or somebody. But if you're not part of the solution, you're part of the problem.
Right.
And we got a lot of problems right now. And I get so upset with homelessness. I must have been a homeless person in a previous life. That's all I can say. I'm really drawn to homeless people. When I was in the hospital, I couldn't move. I couldn't talk. I was 86 pounds. Nobody wanted to look at me. I was invisible. Nobody saw me. And I hated that feeling. So now ever since I came back, if I see somebody like that, a homeless person, and they're just trying to catch somebody's eye, they're just sitting there and they're nobody, I just try and say, hey, morning. I mean, they're shocked. It's like, oh my God, somebody saw me.
Wow.
These are easy things to do. People in wheelchairs. Oh man, nobody saw me when I was in a wheelchair. But I make conscious efforts to, whether I'm sitting in a doctor's office or going down the street or wherever I am, I'll say, how's your day going? Fine, just great. How's yours? I'm screaming. I'm sorry, I get excited. But that and little acts of kindness, like people, they can't do it now, but they'd stand by the side of the road, I need $1, my dog died or whatever. I could always tell, I guess the old sixth sense, when somebody really, really needed the money. So I kept dollar bills and stuff on the front seat. So if I saw somebody like that, I'd roll down the window and they'd look at me and come, and I'd just hand up just $1, sometimes 5 if they were really bad off. And every single time they'd say, oh, God bless you. And I thought, oh, there's my key. I got somebody off my list. All I got is 9,000, 50,000, a million other people to get. And it became almost a game. I was glad to be back because some of this stuff was really easy. I didn't have to, do something huge. That's what I was afraid of. I'm just this little old lady. How can I do something huge? But little things we can all do. And useful is a big one. So lately, I've been wondering about that. I've got this idea I was talking to you about earlier. But it's one thing for me to say, oh my God, I feel so sorry for those homeless people. It's cold outside. They must be miserable, blah, blah, blah. That's being part of the problem. When I gather up my extra blankets and boots and stuff and drive over to Tacoma and I take out to the homeless shelter, or I write a check and I send, some money into the homeless shelter, now I'm being part of the solution. I'm being useful. And everybody can do that.
You spoke about, and I kind of believe this, and I'm sure a lot of people in the NDE community believe this, but, whatever life you're in, you chose this life, you chose the body, the people, your soul group. It looks like you have already at least some afterwards, but during your experience, did you find out what was your purpose here this lifetime? Like, was there a
cheating.
That's
cheating. I think that's cheating.
Oh, okay.
I would love to, because then you could go straight to it,
Right.
No, it's hiding under rocks, it's where you least expect it. Like looking into a homeless person's eyes, or a guy in a wheelchair, or, it's just being loving and kind. These are the ways to do it. These are the clues right here. Mm-hmm. If we just do all those things, there's no need for hell. We're too busy being good. It's easy and it's fun and it's joyful and it just makes you feel better. How hard and how bad is that? Yeah. It's so much better than some of this religious stuff that maybe you got to feel miserable to make God happy. You can't make God happy. He's always happy. You can't make God sad. I hate it when they tell children, don't hit your sister. You're going to make God sad. Oh, that's such a terrible thing to teach a child.
Yeah. So when did you publish your book? Let's go back to that first.
Where are we? June, end of June.
End of June. So just very recently then.
Yeah. It just came out.
Oh, wow. If someone wants to get your book, where can they find it?
I just happen to have a copy. It's, let's see. You go to www.misfitinhelltoheavenexpat.com.
Okay.
Or you can go on to Amazon and look that up. I'm sorry that's such a mouthful, but the voices kept telling me that had to be the title. There was nothing I could do to change it. So if you go into Amazon, if you type in Misfit in Hell 2, it usually will come up to Heaven Expat 2. And you can get it in the Kindle or the print book and read my reviews. It's a kick because people think, oh my God, that's such a thick book. But it's 123 chapters, but it's big print because I have trouble seeing. Yeah. And a lot of older people have trouble seeing. And it's really short chapters, 1 to 3 pages. It's very fast moving. There's a lot of humor in it. Laugh out loud humor is what my priest told me. And it's scary. Yeah. It's really scary. And it's got a lot of uplifting parts to it. And there's a lot of really crashing, horribly melancholy parts to it. It's just like real life. It's just like everybody's life. You got good, you got bad, you just got to get through it. You
mentioned earlier about when you were in hell, it's kind of like you had tasks like you had to do, and you would do a task.
Yeah.
Do you speak about all those tasks in your book?
Yes, I do. And it was only in writing this book and going back to look at it, somebody said to me, the horrible things that happened to you in your life, those were things that you went through in hell too. So it was like my subconscious that was trying to say, okay, where am I going to go for hell? Well, this was a really bad thing. When I got raped by that person, that was a really bad thing. There was a lot of circumstances around that too. So in hell, guess what happens? But you multiply it by a couple of times.
Wow.
And it's so all the things that terrified me, that drove me almost to despair, that almost made me give up on God. They were all down there waiting for me. But I made that up myself. So now when things happen to me, I say, well, like I told you, I must have planned that. And it's not God's fault. God's letting me learn the lessons I asked to learn. God's on our side, man.
In your experience, did you have a life review?
No, I got thrown out too quick. I think I was glad just to see my friend. And I can imagine people up there saying, I'm not going to throw her out. I'm not going to throw her out. But he was always somebody that could stand up to me. And we were always trying to get each other. Okay, I'll get you for that. And he got the last gotcha. But no, I did not get a life review, but it's supposed to be wonderful, really. I mean, that's if there's any sense of karma or not even retribution. That's too heavy a word, but it's just what I'm told is you've got some, angels and spirit guides and some of your friends and hanging around. And one guy just described it as a disco ball, and he had all those little lights on it, and each one was a picture of something that happened in his life. And it was three-dimensional all around the room, and it was so cool just to look at that person and then see the interaction with that friend or whatever it was. And then, of course, they all say that they feel again what they were feeling in the situation, but then they also get to feel what that interaction felt to them. Now, so if there's anybody out there that says, well, that's not right, that God doesn't send people to hell, you can imagine that if you're somebody, and I won't name names, that did a lot of murdering of people and made their lives miserable, if they get to have a life review where they get to have every single person's feelings, their horror, their fright, their pain, all that they get to experience. That's not God doing it. They just get the opportunity to see how their life affected others. I think, it's a wash.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I agree with that. And then sometimes I also think, well, maybe that's someone has to be the bad guy. So if people are about experiences, then someone has to come down and, be the bad guy and do bad things so other people will experience bad things if that's even possible.
And I think there's another little niche there, because I thought, well, who are these demons? I think there are people that choose evil for whatever warped reason. I know, they say there's yin and yang and light and dark, and there's always been evil and good. That just is. And so there are people, I think, that choose evil. They don't want to be with God. They hate God. And so God says, fine, build your own place. And I mean, that's as old as the angels and Lucifer and all that stuff. So I think there's probably some truth to that. I just don't want to ever find out on a first name basis how that works. Yeah. I'd rather hang with the others.
Do you have anything else that you're working on right now that you want everybody to know about?
Yes, I'm again laying in that hospital wondering how in the heck I was going to affect anything. The book I thought, how am I going to get this book out? But the podcast people, that's how. You podcast people are little angels, and you are spreading all kinds of information to people that have no other way to gather this. They're getting hope, they're getting information, they're not feeling alone. And I just bless all you podcast people. I really do. I've been on, 8 of them now. And it's just, if you just reach the 4 or 5 people in the world you were supposed to reach with your message, you're doing it. But you're really facilitating that. So I want to say good job. And if we don't make money at that, that's not the point. We're not here to make money. God will take care of us.
Yeah. And I enjoy the podcast because I get to meet interesting people like you all the time. And I honestly kind of feel like I make new friends.
Me too. In New Zealand, like with Kirsty, with New Zealand, a guy in England. I mean, if we were all locked up like this, we wouldn't be doing this. So see, this is really a blessing. Even the COVID thing. We're locked up right now because all the smoke from California and Oregon has landed in our little bay out here. We can't go outside. I mean, it's really, chemical bad. But that's okay. I got to talk to you. And whoever's listening tonight. So God says, hey, I work in strange ways, he says.
Yeah. I had this guest one time that's an author of about, 23, 24 books. And he told me that writing the book is the easy thing to do. Marketing the book is the hard part. Would you agree with that?
Oh, yeah. It's a full-time job. I thought I was going to retire and write the book. You know, it's not that way. I'm learning. I thank God I was a businesswoman, so it doesn't scare me, but it's certainly not the ease that I
Yeah.
thought I would have after this. You turn it over the publisher or somebody, and they take it. And no, but look, I'm loving it. It's keeping my brain active, and I'm, like you say, meeting all these new people has just been so exhilarating and so satisfying. I'm so happy that this all came together.
And I think, people seeing and listening to these podcasts will actually help you spread your message wider to a wider audience,
Yes,
a lot of
of
people
course.
will, they may not buy your book, which I hope they do, but they just
they
catch some of your message. They may catch a
wasn't-
message, just what we heard today, and
I know. In your little backdrop there on your your little screensaver thingy. I mean, we're right out there in the Cosmo talking about it, and
right.
And then you do what you got to do, and then God will take care of the rest.
Right. This is kind of a little off topic, but I was curious. You mentioned this before. Are you still a realtor or a broker?
I've still got my active license, so that makes it about 40 years I've had that. But I was a property manager, and I did that mostly because I liked helping people.
Yeah.
I dealt with a lot of people in low income, vets coming back from Vietnam, people with maybe some mental issues. People wouldn't rent to them, people in wheelchairs, and that was before I knew about wheelchairs. It just made me feel happy. The owners got a nice tenant, and they've got some money coming in to pay their bills, and then these people had a nice, safe environment. They knew they had a good landlord, and we became friends. And so I loved it. I did that actively for 20 years, had my own company.
It almost seems like some kind of tie-in together, because you have this experience of, property management. You have an affinity towards homeless people, and people in wheelchairs. And maybe there's some work that needs to be done of you facilitating these people finding a place to live, or...
Yeah, well, that's what I did then. And that was before I even got sick. I mean, that was long before. But now, and I love all this stuff we've got going on, I want to do something. Well, if I ever make any money on this book, and which I doubt, half of it was already dedicated to go to the homeless shelter over in Tacoma. I didn't need to tell anybody that, but I'll tell you, because as you brought up the homeless thing, because I really, really want to keep doing things for them. So I thought, I need some help. I wish I could get some help. So I was just doing one of these things where people want to be your friend, and you're on your podcast, you get all kinds of people coming in. And this one guy said he was the director for homelessness in some big organization. He just retired. He worked here doing homeless, kept coming up. And I thought, well, I'll friend him. That seems kind of cool. He's probably in Yugoslavia or something, but that would be cool. So he pings back and says, hey, looks like we've got a lot in common. Let's get together for coffee. And I said, yeah, where do you live? And he gave me the address, and it's 40 miles away.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I mean, I go up that way a couple times a week to do shopping and stuff anyway. So I thought, out of the whole world, this guy lives 40 minutes away. And so we're going to get together.
Oh, that's amazing.
So see, it's growing already. I'm so excited. If anybody else is interested in, wherever you are, all over the world, in helping these homeless people, because they chose that. They chose that so we could learn to be empathetic and helpful and kind and sharing. And so they are giving us an opportunity to do things we chose to learn.
You may not know a lot about me, and the audience may not know a lot about me, but I'm a professional YouTuber, and my mind is always, not always, but probably 90% of the time, just in video world. And have you ever considered making YouTube videos of you? You don't want to give away the entire book, because, who wants to do that? But have you ever considered just maybe reading a few chapters, making videos of you reading chapters of your book? Because you have an amazing, one thing is, to get in, get people interested in your story, but two, you would be great at it because you have an amazing energy about you. And even you reading it to me earlier, you're a terrific, speaker of your own story. So I think it would
Yeah,
be awesome.
I really have.
I think it would
I
be
have.
awesome for you to like make a few videos of just you reading a couple chapters here and there and
I just didn't know how hard it was. And so, I mean,
it's pretty
not
easy.
hard.
I mean, it's almost like what you're doing here. Just put your book up and maybe put it at an area where so you're not looking down at your book, you're kind of eyes.
Yeah. Okay.
The more you can look at the camera, the more the audience is going to feel connection with you.
Okay.
But I think that would be an amazing thing is to,
thank you.
Would be, share some of your book and then people can learn out, if they want to, you'll tease them a little bit. Then they're going to want to find out more.
Yeah, it's a page turner. That's what people say. People say, well, I'll just read one more chapter.
Yeah.
And they'll say, well, they're short chapters. I'll just read one. I have had 2 or 3 people say, I sat up till 4 a.m. reading your darn book. Yeah. I couldn't put it down.
That's good.
So I think that would be fun to do that.
Yeah. All right. So before we wrap it up here, do you have one last message for the audience?
Well, yeah, you don't have to go to hell. You don't have to be afraid to die. You just do have to be proactive. And that's very simple. Just, if you want to write this down or get it off the internet from my book or whatever, just be loving, kind, merciful, forgiving, encouraging, grateful, non-judgmental, and useful. And we'll all meet together someday and kick this around.
Yeah, I think that's
what
amazing.
A good time we had. Okay.
Yeah, I really love it.
Thanks for having me on, Jeff. You're a doll.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. I wish you massive success with your book.
Okay.
I wish
we'll keep in touch.
Yes, let's do it.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, have a good evening. Oh, I just lost my train of thought now.
That's contagious.
I had this good question. Yes.